Hello, and welcome back to HunterTuned. Today we are working on some stuff at the shop, and we got the Caprice outside. I got it jacked up in the air right now because we've been doing a few things on it. And we actually got to install a loud valve onto the exhaust. So he actually brought the car over to me, and he just said, like, he wanted the fuel fitting on the top hat to be a 90-degree fitting instead of a straight fitting out of the fuel hat, because the way that the back seat is and the way the fuel pump housing sits in under the back seat, he had the hose coming straight up, and if you put the seat all the way down, it would end up kinking the fuel line. So what I did is me and Christian took the top hat out the other day, and we drilled a hole through it, capped off the old spot where the feed line was going. It was kind of a bad spot anyways, because where the fuel pump connected in the tank, it kind of had to do like a 45-degree angle and then another 45, so the hose was getting a little bit, I wouldn't say it was kinked, but it was stressed a little bit. So we ended up doing a straight shot off the pump, so the hose is completely straight up and down in the housing, or in the pump housing now. So we got that fixed, and then we got a 90-degree fitting that we just kind of epoxied into the top hat, and we ran the hose 90 degrees so we can have the back seat sit all the way down now. We got that done, and then I put a new relay on it as well, because the relay that he had was just like a factory GM one for like headlights or something like that, and the pins are really small, so the wires would tend to come off easy. So I got like an actual 4-pin relay, and we put that in there. I got the wires all taped up, and we got the back seat installed again. So the car is now running again, has proper fuel fitting on. So I'm actually under the car. I'm not under the car. I just have the camera under the car. There's no jack stand under it right now. So I have the loud valve. I teed the boost line going to the wastegate because the loud valve needs to see a boost reference. So once the loud valve sees boost, it will open. So I just ran a T, and then I ran a vacuum line up and around over the tranny cross member here, away from the drive shaft and everything like that, and then we ran the line right into the top of the loud valve here, and this is the cutout. It just kind of splits off of the rest of the 3-inch exhaust here, and yeah, that should hopefully pick up some boost. Alrighty, so car's back on the ground now. Loud valve is all plumbed up. I'm probably just going to take it for a little street cruise and see if the loud valve is operating how it should, and kind of maybe check over the tune a little bit. I did notice on a cold start, this thing is quite rich. It's like a 10-2 air-fuel ratio for the first, like, I don't know, 5-10 seconds of the car running, and then it comes up to 13.5, 14. So I might try to work on that part of the tune for the car too. But like I said, first things first, I'm going to take it for a little cruise, make sure the loud valve is operating how it should, and kind of make sure that the tune is going to be okay. And then we're probably going to pull out the EG that we got here for a customer. Pull this car out. Michael's going to do a valve lash on his, and then I'm probably going to throw the Caprice on the dyno and go over the tune some more and make sure everything is good to go. Hopefully this thing boils tired now.
Yeah, yours. Look at this.
Oof.
Well used.
Right. How long did that sensor last you?
A year.
A year? That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
Did you have another one?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know if it actually works or not.
See, I don't know what you guys run on Hondas for up pipes, but the O2 sensor placement, I've never been able to get it right and have the sensor last for like a really long time. Michael's has been pretty good, but you guys know my hatch. I have the O2 sensor kind of in the same spot as Michael's, and mine goes out like every time I cold start it if I have it plugged in. So a lot of guys, I've seen them, they run it on the opposite side of the downpipe, which you would think would be a problem because the water and the condensation from the exhaust is going to splash right into the sensor, but I don't know. Alrighty guys, so we ended up taking the Caprice out for a little street cruise, and we got the cutout working, but it seems like from what I was, just feeling from the car ride, it didn't really pick up any power, and the loud valve only opens when you're really in the throttle, which just tells me that the car is really just not on that much boost. So what I did is I actually jacked the car back up, and I pulled the wastegate apart, and it had a really small spring in it, so I ended up putting another spring in it. I think we put like an 8-pound spring in it, a 6 or 8-pound spring, and it only had like a 4-pound spring. So with both of them, we should be running around 10 to 12 pounds of boost, I'm hoping. So we're gonna go test it out right now, see how much boost it's on, and then hopefully we're all good to go. He did want around 10 pounds of boost. So we're going to try to get just that for him. But I think this Harbor Freight boost gauge, same with Christians, they read a little bit high. Because I know last time we were tuning this thing, the data log read 4 pounds of boost and the boost gauge was reading around 6. So if we can get the gauge to read around 12 to 14, and the log to read 180 kPa, I think we'll be dialed. So me and Michael are going to take it out for one more cruise here. We actually were crawling under the damn thing in the gravel here, and we just pulled the top of the wastegate off while it was still on the car, so that was fun. Not really. You locked the door on me.
I hit the button by accident on the key.
You know, Christine did that to me one time when we were at Menards, and I locked my keys in my truck. Then we had to go into Menards, and I bought a pry bar, and then I unlocked my truck with a pry bar.
Why don't you just smash the window?
I could have smashed my window too. Fuck it.
That's what this thing's for. That's a window.
I'm telling. Don't you think that this exhaust is still choked up though?
That's a window smasher.
Who that is?
Yeah.
All right, so we're about to do a little rip. Oop, never mind. There's a person walking.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little rip. R.I.P.
Yep.
We'll pull you over.
Don't worry, we're just an officer here.
Doing right.
Fond County Sheriff. How's it going?
She smiled at us.
Yeah. She probably thinks we're a damn
She
cop.
probably thinks you are a cop.
With my hat on and my watch.
Cops wear watches.
Well, I just need a badge and then I'll be good.
Yeah.
I think cops wear watches or bracelets or something, don't they?
Something, yeah.
The long arm of the law, here with a 7875. And a big old spotlight.
And
Oop, there we go. Who goes there? We should go turkey shining later. There's a lot of turkeys out here.
some deer.
There's 2 right in this car right now.
Huh?
I said there's 2 turkeys in this car right now.
I don't get it.
Nothing. Ooh, look at this fucking car. Big old 50s something. You think? 50s? 60s? I'm sure they'll tell us in the goddamn comments.
It's probably a 55 Bel Air.
It looked like it. Alright, I'm gonna roll into this thing. I don't want to go crazy because we don't know what the boost is gonna run.
It was like 10.
12, something like that. It sounded like it was breaking up.
Yep.
Alrighty guys, so we did just take the Caprice out for another test drive. We got the boost a little bit higher. The gauge was reading around 11 or 12 pounds, which should be around 8 to 10, I would say, on the HP Tuners log. Whenever I hook the laptop up, I'll verify that. But you did notice that the car was breaking up a little bit, so it, you know, you'd come into boost and then it would start to sputter and misfire and pop and stuff. So that's just a classic indicator of, you know, the spark plug, the ignition is just not handling the boost. So it's the fire's getting blown out, as PFI would say. You're blowing out the candle. When the spark plug ignites, it needs to ignite the fuel, obviously. And when boost gets in there, it's like you're turning on a fan. Like you're just turning on a fan on a fire. It's just going to blow the fire right out. So to alleviate these issues, you gap the spark plug down in order to have the ignition be able to jump a smaller gap, and then it'll still ignite the mixture. These plugs were at 30 to 35 thousandths. I actually pulled all of them out of the car already. So I got all the plugs out of the car here, and they were all around 35 thousandths plug gap, which is too big for a turbo car. It'd be okay if it was all motor, but like I said, when you got the turbo on the car, you're blowing pretty much, you're turning a fan on in the combustion chamber with the turbo. So you know, you blow the fire out a little bit easier, unless you have a stupid strong ignition system, which, I mean, we run stock ignition from Honda from the 90s. We run stock distributor stuff all the time. I know my hatch runs a 12 thousandths plug gap. Michael runs a 12 thousandths plug gap. Mustang runs a 14 thousandths plug gap, I think, just for like super high boost. But I really don't usually ever notice. A lot of guys are scared of plug gap, but I've never noticed like a huge difference going from like say a 30 to a 15 thousandths plug gap. It may look deceiving to a lot of people, like, oh, that's too damn small, it's not gonna it's gonna misfire or whatever. The only time I ever notice is sometimes with Hondas, if you go down to like a 12 thousandths plug gap, the idle tends to pop a little bit more, you know, like it doesn't fire completely at idle anymore. But that's the only thing I've ever noticed. But going down to 20 thousandths on a big V8, no issues at all. So I'm gonna get back to throwing these plugs back in. It's definitely this side's not too bad doing the plugs on, but this side over by the turbo is definitely a little bit trickier because the manifold is in the way here, the dipstick is in the way. So I actually had a pry bar here and I bent the dipstick out a little bit so I can actually fit a socket on the end of the plug. That was a little bit tricky, and this whole setup's still a little bit warm. It is a gorgeous day outside though, so I'm not complaining too much. So we are going to have to replace some of these spark plug wires too, because I actually remember one of these wires, I don't know what one, was arcing back in when oh yeah, is this one right here. So this wire right here was actually arcing. You had heat wrap over it and this metal chicken wire stuff. He had this over this plug wire, and the chicken wire was actually arcing onto the downpipe. I remember that back when we first started working on this car. So new set of plugs and wires is definitely going to help out, and gapping the plugs down to 20 thousandths. So hopefully this thing will be all dialed, and I'm going to pick back up when we get this all finished up. Alrighty guys, so we got the plug wires and plugs all swapped out here. So I just ran the original wires and stuff that were on this side. I just gapped the plugs down on that side, and then I changed some of the wiring on this side. So we have some of the wires are 90-degree boot on this end, so they actually fit a little better. They don't come out to the downpipe and rub on the manifold at all anymore. The old plug wires that were on there worked, but they weren't ideal. So I did switch them out to the 90-degree boots on this side, besides the way far back one, because that one interferes with the downpipe kind of no matter what you do. But they do have it heat wrapped, so we shouldn't have any issues there. And we're about to fire it up and take it for another test drive, see if this spark breakup went away, and then if it did, we're gonna throw it on the dyno. Alrighty guys, we're gonna put this thing in sport mode and performance mode and all the modes, traction control off, all that shit. So this tranny shift's good, because this tranny is a little picky, a little 6L80 or whatever this thing is. Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna let her eat here and see if the boost and everything works now that the plugs are gapped down.
Definitely is not that loud.
No, it's not that loud at all. Not loud at all. I figured the cutout would have been a lot louder. That's what Christian's talking about.
Yeah.
Like you can hear it open, but it's like not obnoxious, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like the cutout needs to be closer to the turbo. Yeah. Because it's like halfway down the car right now, and I don't know if that's helping the exhaust flow issue or not, but yeah, tune looks good, except it gets rich above like $5 grand. You can see it dipping into the 10, like real bottom 10s there. When I first get into it, it's like 12.0 air fuel, 12.0, 11.8, something like that, and then above like $5 grand or so, it dives rich. There's a very famous cemetery right there. You want to know how many are dead in there? All of them. Is that not the lamest joke you've heard all day?
I've never heard that before.
Oh, wow. Do you think it picked up any power?
I haven't been in it in
a long time. I feel like it picked up a little, but it...
I was going to say, it feels like it scoots, but...
It's not as much as you would think. Alrighty guys, so we got the Caprice all strapped down onto the dyno now, and we got it all strapped down good and everything like that, and we just set the gear ratio with the dyno matched it to HP tuners. You can actually command a certain gear when you're on the dyno with the VCM scanner. On HP tuners, you can actually command like 3rd or 4th gear, so you can do dyno runs and have it not downshift or upshift on you. So I'll show you guys that here in a second. I'm actually just flashing a new tune onto this thing because when we were out on the street earlier, I was kind of already visualizing in my head and watching the wideband of what it needed just on the street. And above like 5 grand, it starts to dive really rich. Like 10.0 or so. So I'm pulling 10% of fuel out above 5 grand, and that right just got completed here. So we're going to hop back in here. Right completed. So we can close that out. Cycle the key here. I always like close and shut the door once or twice because GMs are weird. So now that we're all good here, I just went into the main VE tables here, the closed and open IMRC tables here, and we're going to save all this. We're just going to minimize it for now, and then we're going to go to the scanner here. So this is the data logger for HP tuners, VCM scanner. We'll turn the key forward again, plug the cable in. We're going to hit record, the big red button there, and we should be able to fire this thing up here in a second. And there's a bunch of, the whole dash is lit up like Christmas trees right now because this car has traction control, StabiliTrak, ABS, you name it. So we have to like disable everything, and then the ABS gets pissed because you hit the brakes and it thinks that, you know, only the back wheels are spinning, so it gets mad at you. But yeah, so we're going to just make sure the traction control and the StabiliTrak is all off before we go through and do a run. Just going to make sure that our coolant temp and everything is good here, and we're going to just kind of check everything over. See, we do not have a map sensor reading currently, so we're going to have to try to fix that. So we're going to right click here. Actually, we have to look for map over here. So the left side, we're going to have to add a channel. We're going to go to general engine here, and then actually we can shut this thing off for now so it ain't so loud. I do not like these E38 computers because there's so much shit you have to try to go through to try to find something simple like a map sensor. Alrighty guys, so we got the Caprice on the dyno and we did a pull and we laid down 480 for horsepower and 420 or 430 for torque. So the first pull when Micah was filming there, the motor started to like have some lifter noise or some metal tinging around somewhere. I don't know exactly where that's coming from. We thought it could have been like something on the exhaust or something like that, but it sounded like, you know, something.
It sounded like a chain. Like when
yeah,
you
like
pick up a chain.
Yeah, when you pick a chain up. That's what it sounded like. It was really weird. And, you know, we thought it was like the motor was hurt or something like that. So I shut it off right away. And I go back in the logs and it has 60 pounds of oil pressure. So that tells me it's not a rod knock or anything like that. But it could be a rocker arm or like a lifter or something like that maybe. It's not doing it now. It just did it like randomly, like
twice.
Once or twice, yeah. So that's kind of weird, and it kind of is concerning, but I'm just going to make sure that the tune is good before it's out of here. So we might do one more hit with it, and I'm going to clean the tune up a little bit more. I actually just put 5% more fuel in it because it was a little lean, and I'm actually going to stay in it a little farther this time because I only wound it out to like 5,800 or something like that. I didn't really stay in it too long, and it was still building power because this thing has a sloppy stage 2 camshaft, and the sloppy stage 2 will, you know, continue to carry there. So that sounds pretty accurate though for this amount of boost. It's on like between 9 and 10 pounds, I'm thinking. The gauge in the car reads a little bit higher than what the, you know, log is saying, but 8 to 10 pounds, it's laying down 480 for horsepower, so that's not doing too bad. I'm putting a little fuel in it now, and I'm going to stay in it a little longer and see if we can crack that 500 mark, and we'll update you guys in a minute.
All right, guys, we're gonna do a tug with this thing. We're gonna do a tug. Just a nice tug.
Plug the water in.
I gotta plug the water in before we do our tug. Fucking dumbass, it's up here.
Alrighty guys, so we have been messing with the Turbo Cop car a bunch, and we took the car out last night and ended up having some issues again. We were driving it down the road, did a few pulls, and it just keeps pulling timing. It's got knock retard like 8 to 10 degrees of ignition retard on like 10 degrees of timing on 10 pounds of boost, which is pretty damn conservative. If you ask anybody out there, that's very conservative timing. 10 degrees on 10 pounds of boost is not much. So it just kept knocking and kept knocking and kept knocking. Like, it would just peg the knock sensor as soon as I would get into boost. And I don't know what was causing it. So I was like, maybe it's false knock. Maybe the, you know, because sometimes these cars, you know, if the exhaust is kind of rattly or something like that, sometimes you can get false knock. But a lot of these newer cars, the E38 computers, the knock sensors are actually pretty good. The whole computer system is very sophisticated and it's very good at what it does. But I just tried for one pull. I said don't pull timing, you know, more than like 4 degrees, because it can pull up to 10 degrees. And I just wanted to see if the car would pick up at all, and it did not. The one of the plugs had it just detonated again. Is getting detonation from barely any damn ignition timing. So I just was scratching my head all damn night. I talked to Kurt Miller down in Madison. I've talked to Mike down in North Carolina. I've talked to a bunch of people that are really good with these cars, and they kind of all just told me like it shouldn't really be knocking at that you know, ignition level. But I'll tell you one thing, guys, and what I personally have been thinking for the last day now with this car, and what I told him initially when he dropped the car off the first time back in the fall, I said this exhaust sucks. This exhaust is choking this motor, and when you have a lot of exhaust back pressure, it's going to raise cylinder temperatures, and it's just going to act like it's under 30 pounds of boost, but it's not actually making that power because the exhaust is just backing up into the motor. It's just causing a lot of back pressure issues. So what I did for the time being, just to test this thing out, is we put an up pipe on it. I took the down pipe off. I disconnected the entire exhaust because it's got 3-inch exhaust that's crush bent pipe. It's not mandrel bent, and it's got the cutout on it, but the cutout, it kind of necks down really far to like 2.5 inch. It's got a turn down on it. It's just not a good flowing exhaust, period. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's just not a good flowing exhaust. So anyways, like I said, I disconnected the whole exhaust system just to do a test here, and I threw the up pipe from the hatch on this thing. So this is just a wide open 3-inch pipe, no restriction whatsoever. Plugged my O2 sensor in, and I went and did a pull. And let me just tell you guys that this car is a whole new car. It has 4 degrees of ignition timing in it, and it picked up big. And I'm saying big. So with that little ignition timing in it, it's faster. So I'm going to, my laptop is charging right now. I'm gonna go for one more rip with the up pipe. I'm gonna get the car tuned with a wide open exhaust, and we're gonna end up giving the car back to him so he can redo his exhaust system. Because once the exhaust system is fixed, won't have any of these issues, I'm thinking. Won't be knock retarding, won't be doing any of that stuff. But choked up exhaust can really kill horsepower, and it can actually hurt the motor if you run too choked up of an exhaust. Because like I said, it's just gonna raise all the temperatures in the motor are gonna run hotter because the exhaust back pressure is so high. And yeah, it's just something that I kind of know from experience that why do you think all of our cars run an open hood stack exhaust, or why do you think the Mustang runs a 90-degree 4-inch pipe? Like, it just runs big exhaust right out of the fender, right out of the hood. They make good power, the motors are happy, they're not choked up, and they tend to last a long time. Alrighty guys, so the Caprice is finished up as best as I can get it for now. I mean, we've spent a lot of time on this thing just to try to, I mean, I'm too nice of a guy sometimes with a lot of people, but it is what? It is what it is sometimes. You know, I just try to get everything we can out of the car and try to, you know, make this guy happy. His goal with the car is to be able to do a rolling burnout. And with this car, it's kind of tough, and it might need like 600 horsepower to do it because this car's got a big 235 tire on it, and it's got, I mean, they're wide, and the wheels alone are like 100 pounds a piece. The car weighs 4,500 pounds. It's a tank, no doubt about it. And, you know, just the way that the car's set up, it hooks really good. So it's kind of hard to be able to get rolling burnouts out of it unless the car has like 600 or 700 horsepower, which I just talked to the guy, and we might be doing a second fuel pump, wide open exhaust, and E85 tune coming in the future here. So because currently the car really cannot be beat on with it on pump gas on this boost level with the choked up exhaust, because it is knocking a little bit. But we did put that open exhaust on there. The car woke up a lot, and you know, is a lot happier with the open exhaust, but it still has a little bit of knock retard because, you know, it's on pump fuel, needs E85 or something like that to be able to run safely at that boost level. But we did get an invoice done for him, and yeah, so I'm gonna run through all the stuff we did do on the car one more time for you guys. We did 90-degree fuel fitting install for the fuel pump on the top hat there. We did the plumbing for the vacuum line on the cutout. We swapped the wastegate springs around for him. We replaced broken plug wires and gapped the spark plug wires, or spark plugs that were in there. And then I swapped out some of the plugs for 90-degree boots, etc. So we did that. And then just fuel cost of being on the dyno and tuning it. There was a little bit of fuel cost involved there. And then we have dyno time and tuning, and that is it. So that's the invoice for this guy. I did make him a to-do list too, so he's not just trying to remember what I told him on the phone or whatever. But the exhaust, I just made him a to-do list, and I'm going to go over that with you guys too. Exhaust needs to be opened up 3.5 inch off the turbo would be ideal. No muffler, because the muffler is killing this thing. The cutout is working, but it's not working the greatest. Wastegate needs to be positioned better, because with the exhaust opened up, it is boost creeping. Or a second wastegate needs to be added. I did mention that the motor is detonating. It needs meth injection kit or E85 or like 110 octane fuel or something like that. But he was talking about getting a second Walbro 450, and maybe we can do ethanol tune on it with a second Wally, because I know one Wally 450 will do like 6 pounds of boost on ethanol on like this size turbo and stuff like that. The E85 definitely runs out a lot faster, or the pump runs out a lot faster with you know, boost and whatnot. So yeah, second fuel pump won't hurt. I wrote on here, and I just said don't beat on the car until these issues are sorted, because yeah, it's not gonna last long if the motor is fucking detonating, because the exhaust is all choked up, and the fact that it's on like 4 degrees of ignition timing and still gets knock retard once in a while. So I mean, it rips as is, but it's definitely choked up. Even when you floor it with the exhaust on it now, it's like fighting itself. You know, it's fighting the big back pressure that it's got going on there. I mean, it makes 480 horsepower like this, and I can imagine, you know, with the exhaust cutout and stuff like that, it makes 14, 15 pounds of boost. I wouldn't be surprised if it made 550, 600 horsepower. So that's what we're going to shoot for. E85 tune, so it's safe, and with making it safer, it's actually going to make more horsepower, which is kind of funny because when everything works together, it's more reliable. It's just how it should go sometimes. So we're going to pull this car out, get this Derby car out of here, and then Caprice is going to sit here for a day or two till he can come pick it up, and you'll have to pick us up in the next video. You'll have to check us out in the next video, I should say. We're going to be working on this EG hatch, and then tomorrow we might have a K-Series car coming, so we got a lot of stuff coming for you guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Help support the shop. If you guys need dyno tuning or work done on your vehicle or whatever, always hit up HunterTuned. You can always hit me up through email. That's the best place to get a hold of me. I know a lot of people have been trying to get a hold of me through Instagram, Facebook, email. I'm actually kind of behind on orders right now because I'm just at the shop thrashing. It is super tough to keep up on all this stuff lately, but I appreciate all the support, guys. And yeah, we'll talk to you in the next video. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. Ooh, Christian's got something in his beard there. Still there.
Squirt.
Squirt.